If you've been watching current events or staying up to date on what's happening in the world, you will notice that the Matrix is glitching. The Matrix has broken down and things are getting way more chaotic than a politician with a lie detector test in front of him. And this is because evil does evil to everything. For some reason, a lot of us have this perception, and I do too, that bad people only do bad things to good people, or the shaitan only latch on to good people. And although good people may be tested harder in some situations, it's not always true. See, the demons, shaitan, or jinn, they attack their own as well. And we have this weird carnivorous system happening right now. And we're starting to see this crazy situation where the snake is eating the tail of another snake, which is eating the tail of another snake. And it's making this loop of shaitan attachments attacking each other. The way they were able to achieve this, the way they were able to achieve any kind of control was through media. This is what I refer to as the Dajjal system. Through your social media, through your music, and all different forms of entertainment, they've been able to kind of brainwash people. And this is because it's the easiest way to the top. Now, you look at someone or a group of people like the Island Boys, for example. They have no intrinsic value at all. They're just entertainment. They're just the jester. Well, to the elites, the jesters have an immense amount of value. If you take this back to the medieval times, it still applies. The jester was individuals that the kings would use to push a new narrative, to create a new norm. They would often do this from the jester bullying or making fun of other individuals of a certain characteristic to try to make that not good in social standards. And the jester is the fastest way to go from the bottom of society to the top of society. And this is exactly why it holds so much value and people chase it so much. They want to be in the public eye. Because the jester could be anybody. The jester could be anybody. Any kid off the side of the street. It could be a homeless man. It didn't matter as long as they were entertaining. So if this individual is entertaining enough, these investors, these big rich elites at the top of society, financially top of society, can pluck someone up and say, hey, this person's good with their words. I want you to do X, Y, and Z. You can come live in the castle with me. And this is the way people have always done it. They go from the bottom all the way to the top of society seemingly overnight. And this is no different in modern society. This is what they're doing. They're sponsoring people like the Island Boys because they can be hated by the masses to push a new norm by being so outrageous. Right now we're seeing this thing with underage children. I gotta pick my words carefully here. Where all the elites are getting exposed for being involved with these people out on an island somewhere. And then now all of a sudden, all these influencers are getting busted for doing the exact same thing. This is not random. They are trying to normalize something like this so it can be normal in society so they don't get judged as hard. So these influencers that are getting busted, all these people in the media that are getting busted, what it is they have big rich investors above them making this happen. Now we know these are the same people who follow Kabbalistic rituals. They follow the Kabbalah. But when this first came to my mind, this was about a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. This is whenever things started performing very well on TikTok before I reverted. And I saw how much money you actually make on the platform, which is basically nothing. Then you look around all these TikTokers and they have all this money and you're like, where did this come from? Especially the people in social media who don't come from rich families but still found a way to pop off. Like, where's their money coming from? Because I know the platforms don't pay that well. And what it is they all have investors. They have these elites behind them that are funding their whole journey. They're funding everything around them, giving them a nice place to live in one of their rental homes. And what the deal is they have to go push a narrative. They have to talk about X, Y, and Z. Now, the X, Y, and Z, the narratives that they're pushing are the Dajjal system. They're doing this for power and control so they can manipulate society to get the masses to live a certain way. That way, their evil acts become normalized. And that is the Dajjal system in a nutshell. There's a little bit more to it, but you get the idea. And what's so crazy about right now is they're scrambling more than ever because the boomer generation is dying off. Now, you may be asking, why is that important? Because of money. They need to implement these things quick with this new generation so that the money doesn't fall into the hands of their enemies. With the boomer generation dying off, it is the largest wealth transfer that the world has ever seen at any point in time. So more money is about to change hands than any other time in history. And they want to be at the winning point of that wealth transfer. So they're pushing hard on the vices. They don't have a lot of time to work on this. They want everybody to fall into these vices, all these different haram or sins. They need these to be the main centerfold of people's life. And because they're pushing so hard, this is the fascinating thing, is because they are pushing so hard on these vices, they're falling to them themselves. See, these individuals are getting so creative and so seductive with all this haram that they're falling to their own poison. They are literally drinking their own poison right now. And the two sides of evil, or multiple directions of evil, they are cannibalizing themselves. But there is one community of individuals that don't fall for it, and it is the Muslims. The people who follow the Quran don't fall to these vices. We're taught from start to finish in the Quran to not fall for vices and how to overcome them. And so what they do is they demonize Islam. Now, this has been happening for a very long time, but right now more than ever, they tried to push back super hard on the faith during the situation in Palestine. And what happened is it actually backfired. The individuals in Palestine having so much faith and so much strength in their faith opened up a lot of people's eyes to it. And now what's happening is Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world, and it's for a reason. And the reason isn't just birth rates like they like to claim. They like to cope on that end, claiming it's just because of birth rates. And yes, birth rates do have a pretty heavy factor in that, but people are reverting to Islam. And this is because they've gotten so extreme with all the haram, so extreme with the sins, that people are looking for a traditional outlet. And what's funny about it is the Quran and the Islamic faith was more of a progressive faith for many years. It was the first faith to really solidify rights for women. Women have more rights, or their rights are more protected under Islam than any other faith. And so Islam used to be seen as a progressive, more liberal idea. But then if you look in today's policies, Islam is now the traditional way. It's funny because the society changes, but Islam has always stayed the same. It never bent for society's norms, which has protected it from the Dajjal system the entire time. And unfortunately, this is why Christianity is starting to get very corrupted. It started with their Bibles being misprinted, and now they're changing to society norms to try to be more trendy, to try to appeal to a younger generation. And from them doing that, they're actually losing people in the process, not gaining them. And the Dajjal may be tricky, he may be good with his words or good on his feet, but he's not good enough to corrupt the Quran. And the harder they push the propaganda against it, the more it grows.